and see how it goes. Welcome. Take a deep breath in the nose and out the mouth. And then think about what kind of breathing you would like to practice today. Just simple, natural breath, lengthening the exhale, or maybe a little alternate nostril breathing. You can put your fingers on either side of your nose, breathing in a triangle up and down. That might feel good to you today. I like to do that before yin sometimes. And as you decide what breathing technique you're going to use, I'd just like to tell you a little bit about how I'd like to practice our yin yoga today. So I'd like to practice through the meridians, and I have a book called Yin Yoga Stretch, The Mindful Way by Cassandra Reinhardt, and she actually has a page where there's all 12 meridians with a pose for each one. And so I thought we'd start at the top of the body today. We usually start at the lower body. We're gonna start with our shoulders, our neck, get into the chest a little bit, and all of the meridians that are above the waist have to do with the heart and the lungs, and also deal with a little bit of the intestines, because the intestines are somewhere in here. So we'll work on those first, and then we'll go into more of the big full body poses and hips, stuff like that. So we'll see how that feels. Let's just start by rocking a little bit. And if you're still breathing, you might take another breath. Of course, we're all still breathing. If you're still using a breathing technique, you'll take another breath and then let it go. And just rock a little. I want to feel the neck a little bit. So as you lean, maybe let the head come a little farther, and then come right back up to center and just rock the head, ear toward a shoulder and then the other. And then back to center, drop the head forward and back gently, really slowly. And then we're just going to turn the head, chin parallel, turning and looking over one shoulder and then the other. Now I'm sitting crisscross. You're welcome to sit any way you like. You're also welcome to lay on your back. We're gonna just move into eagle arms, just crossing one arm on top, and you're welcome to just hold onto your shoulders and settle in, or twist into the hands and get a little deeper. See how it feels to breathe here. I like to drop my chin because it just accentuates that stretch right up the sides of the neck and into the upper shoulders. And that's where I tend to hold a lot of little knots right there at the shoulder neck connection. So we're just gonna breathe here, and you might rock a little bit. If you don't have any kind of osteoporosis, then you are welcome to lean forward and round the spine. You might even bring your hands toward the floor, lift your butt off the ground a little bit and settle into the floor rocking. Just really nice deep back stretch to start us off. And of course we're breathing and smiling. And this pose, this stretch is hopefully going to help balance the triple burner, which is kind of a hard thing to understand. It's mostly back and front, middle of the body. Let's take one more breath here. And then slowly open the arms really wide and let them come back behind you. Reach back. You can lean back. You can get a little wrist stretch. We're gonna move into our wrists in a moment. Open the heart, squeeze the shoulder blades back. And then we're gonna just cross the other arm on top. And if you can't remember, don't worry about it. You're gonna get a good stretch either way. So the triple burner is associated with the regulation of our metabolism. And for me, I always picture it like right under the chest and then right around the belly. And it's like three little pieces here that are about the triple burner, but the meridian runs from the back of the tailbone, from the back of the body, up the head to the middle of the head and out the arms. So we're really wrapping it up here. Trying to remember which arm I had on top. And when it is unbalanced, it's believed to cause appetite dysfunction, ear and throat problems, and emotional instability. So here's to stabilizing. So just keep breathing, rocking, stretching. You're welcome to lean all the way into it. Just really protecting your spine at all times. If you know you have back issues, then your back needs to stay nice and tall. Let's take one more big breath. Really feel the stretch. And then again, the arms begin to open wide, nice and slow, reaching back, leaning back, stretching across the front of the heart. And slowly transitioning from here onto table pose. You're welcome to put a blanket under your knees. We'll be here for just a little while. We're going to get into our wrists. So first, our fingers point toward that short end of the mat, right ahead of us there. And we just tip the tailbone up and down. Let's bring the fingers closer together instead of spreading them out, and rock the shoulders just slightly forward of the wrists. So you get a little bit of a wrist stretch as you're rocking. And then start to turn the fingers to point outward, right off the long edges of the mat. The thumbs could point up toward the short end. You can see how that feels. Rocking a little bit. And then keep turning the fingers now to point toward the knees. See how that feels. Big stretch across the front of the arms. This is really nice actually for shoulder tension to get down into these long ligaments along the length of the inner arms. And this stretch is for the pericardium, the sac around the heart, associated with excess energy, and we want to protect, and the protection of the heart, of course. Take another deep breath, and then start to come on to the tops of your hands, folding them just one at a time. So fold the right hand so that the palm faces up and the knuckles are on the floor and the fingers point towards your knees. You can readjust the other hand coming out of that big forearm stretch, just settling it, and then move into that back of the hand stretch, moving right through the wrists. When this pericardium meridian is unbalanced, it is believed to cause heart problems, negative sexual feelings, and difficulty expressing our emotions. And it goes right from the front of the pubic bone, up the chest, across to the shoulders, down the inside of the arms, right to the middle fingertip. Take another breath on this side. And then lift the hand, maybe twirl it around a little, shake it out. You can come onto the elbow for a moment as you fold the other hand under and get that stretch. And you can stay on your elbow here, moving the other hand, or you can come back up to the palm and then stretching the back of the other hand, fingers pointing toward the knees, knuckles on the floor, palms facing up towards your armpit. And of course you can keep rocking the tailbone, rocking the shoulders, just deciding how much of this wrist work you want to do today. Just a little goes a long, long way. We're just going to take 3 more breaths. And then we're coming down onto the elbow, twisting out the wrist, and crawling our way down onto our belly. We're going to keep the work up in the upper body here. So you might be up high for a moment in Sphinx. We'll be coming back to Sphinx in a little while. So what we want to do first on our belly here is stretch the inside of the shoulder joint. So I'm going to reach out with one hand, palm down, straight out from my shoulder. And then I'm going to turn my head away from that hand toward the other side. I'm going to slide the palm right toward the chest, lift the elbow and reach across, stretching through the chest. You can let the head rest. So you're getting a really big stretch right inside this inner arm here that's reaching out. And the legs are just soft and we're breathing. This is one of the intestines. This is for the large intestines associated with elimination of waste and reabsorption of water. It has started to be really dry season here in Tucson. We need a lot of water. Need to try to balance that out. We're just going to take a couple more breaths on this side. And then we're stretching out now with the other arm and slowly dragging the long arm into a bent position, palm to the floor, turning your head away from the arm that's behind you and reaching through the shoulder, just stretching across the inner arm there as much as you like. So you can really get that front of the shoulder stretch. This is said to be unbalanced and might cause constipation, sore throat, abdominal pain, worry, and difficulty letting go. It's a good thing to think about. Just breathing here, thinking about how our intestines, this is the large intestine line, how that line is so closely connected to our emotions, our fears, our hopes, our worries. Let's just take a few more breaths. And then just relaxing the hand you've been pressing into. Let the arm slide down beside you and relax. Let the shoulders kind of slowly slump toward the ground, sliding off your back. Take a couple more deep breaths right into the front of the body. That large intestine line had a very, very similar path to the first two that we've already done. It just goes right up the front of the body, across the shoulder, and along the arms. So the next one we'll practice is melting heart. We're going to slowly bring the elbows onto the floor. Start to crawl ourselves up into a child's pose position, widening the knees a little bit, maybe letting the toes come toward each other, and walking then the elbows forward and dropping the chest toward the floor. So you're still getting an arm and shoulder stretch. The upper back is creasing, settling. Now, if you don't like this shape, if it just doesn't work for you, you are welcome, and especially if you need to protect your knees, you're welcome to do that supported fish where we place the blocks on the mat right under the spine, and you can actually lay over that, bring the palms together, bend the elbows, and still get this same stretch across the chest, the shoulders, whatever feels good to you. Just taking those deep breaths. You can use a blanket under the back, pillows, bolsters, whatever you like. Just support the head so your neck has a break. That feels pretty good. This is a really intense stretch. This one is for the lungs. It's associated with the regulation of breath and the intake of energy. And when unbalanced, it is believed to cause respiratory problems, nose and throat issues, sadness, and grief. I love how that area across the chest, at the line of the heart, is associated with sadness and grief. And those are the things that do stop us sometimes in the flow of life. Just breathe really deeply right into your chest. And when you've had enough here, you're just going to sink your hips back into child's pose, finishing the lengthening of the arms, stretching of the spine, and then maybe you'll be moving back onto your stomach again. We're all going to end up there on our belly, nice and slow. We have one more big shoulder stretch. But first, we rest. We've been really deeply stretching the upper body for the last 15 minutes, so we're just going to lie nice and flat, Relaxing. If you need to move, feel free to do that too. Picking your favorite breathing technique. If you started off with a little bit of alternate nostril breathing, you can do what my friend used to call cosmic nostril breathing, imagining that you're breathing up the left side of the nose and out the right, and then back up the right side and out the left. Just a mental image of the breath. For our final big upper body shoulder stretch, we're going to do what's called bow tie. Now, if you've had any kind of rotator cuff issues, you're going to skip this one. You might just rest on your belly a little longer. You might move into a different shape that you like. Any shape is welcome. If you're interested in trying bow tie, you're just going to lift your head and walk one arm across to the opposite top corner, and then the other arm goes on top. So you're making a little X with your arms right under your throat, squeezing that thyroid gland and breathing here. Your legs can do whatever you like. This one is a nice stretch up through those shoulder blades. And you can maybe rock a little. This is dealing with the small intestine meridian line running up the back of the body, running from the tailbone up to the shoulder and down the outer arm. So we're stretching that out, associated with the separation of nutrients to be absorbed and eliminated. And when unbalanced, it's believed to cause digestion issues, poor circulation, lower abdominal pain, and poor mental clarity. So maybe close your eyes, notice what you're feeling, how deep the sensation is, and how far you want to go into it. And start to think about when it's time for you to switch sides. Make sure you can always feel your fingers. If they start to go to sleep, you're finished with that pose. You need to come on out. All right. Just crawling the arms out. Try to remember which one was on top. We're going to take a moment up with them out really nice and wide. Maybe chin on the floor, opening the throat up. Maybe turning the head to one side or the other. Couple deep breaths in, resting. And then you're lifting the head and walking now the other arm across so that a new arm can be on top. And maybe if you know this isn't good for your shoulders, maybe you can just go onto your back, draw your knees into your chest, do a little circle rocking. Just enjoy a different shape altogether. Those of us who are practicing bow tie or squeezing into the throat, you can kind of feel that constriction there. That's really nice massage for the thyroid. Notice how the breath adds to the stretch. As the stretch intensifies, you might begin to loosen up a little bit, or you might just come on out of the shape when you're ready. I'm just going to take 3 more breaths. Opening the arms out nice and wide as the counter position. Letting the chin rest on the floor to open the throat if it's okay with your neck, or maybe just turning the head to one side. Bring your awareness and your breathing down low into the stomach, right below the navel, below the diaphragm, pumping the air down. You feel your back rise, letting the air out and the back softens. Beginning to wiggle your fingers and toes. Let's just bend the knees and rock the feet a few times, allowing the waist to rock side to side. Maybe make some big circles with the feet, just moving into the legs a little bit. We're going to move down now into our low back, coming into Sphinx Pose whenever you're ready. Elbows can come onto the floor, shoulders coming upward. I like to bring my hands together. You're welcome to have hands coming straight out from the elbows, more traditional Sphinx Pose. And then settling the legs where they feel good. Sometimes my legs feel better wider apart. Some people prefer closer together. And this, my friends, this pose is for the heart. So maybe just feel your heart. Feel where it is at the level of the heart in the chest, in the front, and in the back. This meridian is associated with distributing blood to organs and governing emotions. It's funny to think that our emotions are ever getting governed or controlled. I like to at least get some detachment from them, a little bit of healthy distance, so that I can make a few more choices about how long and how much I want to feel. When unbalanced, it is believed to cause chest pain, heart palpitations, sleep problems, anxiety, and depression. This is a big meridian, pretty important one. And it's hoped that Sphinx Pose can help and balance the energy here. We're just going to settle in, see where you can relax, and see where the breath feels good, where you can feel it moving. It might also feel good to place a block under the forehead, or maybe prop your chin in your hands. Just noticing how it feels for you. Notice as the stretch begins to intensify or the compression feels more and more just high sensation, and just adjusting as you go. Maybe beginning to get a little traction, walking the elbows a little closer to the chest, digging the elbows into the floor, leaning forward a little bit to kind of drag the body forward. Deepening the breath. You're welcome at any time to move into a seal pose, where we take the hands out a little wider than the shoulders, maybe right up to those top corners of the mat, lengthening the arms, keeping the elbows a little bit bent, lifting the shoulders a little higher. That's optional. Some people love it, some people don't. We're just going to take a few more deep breaths here. Beginning to think about transitioning into table pose and maybe child's pose. Or maybe you just like to roll onto your side or even onto your back, drawing the knees in toward you. Letting that low back slowly move out of its back bend. Just take your time. As you settle into your counter pose from that back bend, just notice what it feels like across the center of the back of your chest, between the armpits, right around the shoulder blades. And you might rock the spine a little bit there, just massaging into those muscles that we have stretched so deeply, working through our upper body meridians. And we're going to slowly but surely now work our way into the middle and lower half of the body. Let's take 3 or 4 more breaths in our resting counter pose. here in the middle of class, I love to just move a little bit. Moving through some down dog, some up dog, maybe cat and cow. Just warming the joints again, stretching and moving just a little bit, moving out of that yin energy into a little bit more yang or yang warmth. Feel free to twist a little, rock a little, anything that sounds good to you. Taking 2 or 3 more breaths as you move and adjust, and we're going to all end up sitting nice and tall. I want to recommend sitting up on something, a blanket or a bolster. The higher we can get our bum off the floor, the easier it is to sit up a little taller. So this next pose is simply straddle with the legs wide apart. Now, if you prefer, and if you have osteoporosis, this might be the best thing for you. You can take this pose on your back. You can simply flatten the back and widen the legs apart and really get that inner leg stretch with the back really nice and flat. You can use a strap there as well to help support that pose. We are just gonna slowly but surely lean a little bit more forward. This is where you might want to have a prop here to put your elbows on, some blocks. A chair, anything you like will do, so you can get a little bit of a forward stretch. And we want the back of the body to be nice and straight for the most part. If you don't have any kind of osteoporosis or disc issues, you're welcome to round your back. You know, you can bring your arms forward and let the head roll. That's fine, but that is not the best position for most of us most of the time. So this one is moving into the stomach. That's the meridian we're working with now. Also, as a side note, you might like to put something under your knees to just kind of release that stretch and make it a little less intense, just to kind of adjust it for yourself. I recently heard it said that talking about non-judgment is a focus on the word judgment, even though we're saying non. So instead of that, we can use the word curious. Let's just get curious about our mental state and also try not to judge it. Straddle is also good for the liver meridian, associated with blood flow, tendon and ligament flexibility, and the menstrual cycles. When the liver meridian is unbalanced, it's believed to cause stomach pain, back pain, stiffness in the joints, anger, and irritability. Goes right along with how we're thinking and what's going on for us in the state of our mental thoughts. Let's just take 3 or 4 more breaths here. Slowly coming up and out of the pose. We're going to just lean back. If you've been on your back, you're just bringing your feet to the floor and you might rock a little. Everyone can put their feet on the floor and rock a little. As you feel the stretch on the inner legs, the back, wherever else you felt it, as you feel that start to disappear, you're just going to start to think about butterfly pose. You're welcome to practice butterfly sitting or lying back. And on the back, there's a couple different ways to practice butterfly. You can have the feet on the floor, outer edges on the feet on the floor, soles of the feet together, knees apart. Or you could bring the feet in toward you, holding on to the feet with the knees apart. Just a little variation there. So whatever you're going to choose, begin to move there now. settling into your favorite butterfly pose. Now, if you have osteoporosis, I'm going to recommend laying on your back always for the seated poses. I'm just putting little air quotes there because the seated poses are the ones that are so easy to round the back in. And for those, I always give the back version so that we can keep the spine really, really safe. And yin is surprisingly good for us if we have osteoporosis, but it is like everything else, it can be dangerous and needs to be figured out with balance. So as you settle into your butterfly, we're moving into our kidney meridian. This meridian runs from the toes up the inside of the legs right to the navel, and then out to the sides of the chest and back to the throat and right to the mouth. This is a full body meridian. Take some really deep breaths and see how the body settles. You might also decide to place blocks on the outer thighs, whether you're laying on your back or seated, just to have that nice support so that the inner legs can begin to really let go. The kidney is associated with sexual energy and the production of bone marrow. Unbalanced, it is believed to cause urinary disorders, reproduction issues, back pain, fear, and insecurity. Just settling in here to the depth of the pose, and we're just going to breathe. And if at any time you decide that one position isn't working for you and you'd like to move into another one, you're always welcome to do that. I'm just going to lay onto my back and just notice how that feels from that position. And that third option of bringing the soles of the feet in toward the body, just going to try that one as well. Wherever you are, let's all take about 4 more breaths. And whether you're seated or lying back, go ahead and come onto the floor, lay back, rock the knees, stretch out, and take a little shavasana here before we move on to the next pose. Just feel the energy flow from the soles of your feet as you inhale, draw the energy up to the crown of your head. And then as you exhale, send it back down through the body and out the soles of the feet. Taking full, long, full body breaths. One more breath. And then start to think about how you would like to practice the shape we call caterpillar, which is simply a forward fold, or if you're doing it on your back, it's just legs both up in the air, pretty close together, stretching up the backs of the legs. You can use a strap here. You could grab your toes. The knees can be as bent as you like. Now, again, if you have osteoporosis, you're going to keep the tailbone pretty close to the floor. A strap would be great. If you'd like to practice this seated, you might rock up, nice flat back, and lean into your forward fold here, caterpillar. So this is that rolling forward sensation if you're seated. This is not a good idea for those with osteoporosis. I want to recommend the laying back version if you have any kind of spinal issues, but also if you prefer to just do a little more restful pose, sometimes that can feel better with the legs up in the air. You'll get that circulation flow as well. So healthy for the heart. So whether you're on your back or sitting up, this meridian, this pose is for the bladder meridian, associated with the removal of liquid waste from the body. And when unbalanced, it's believed to cause back pain, urinary disorders, vision problems, and indecisiveness. And this meridian is quite interesting. It actually the pathway runs from the inner corner of your eye, up over your forehead, over your head, down the back of your neck, to your shoulder. It branches into two places. It goes straight down the spine and it goes over to the shoulder and runs down the back of the body, swings out to the hip and down the back side of the leg. So this pose, this full rounding, whether you're actually rounded or not, this full back stretch and back of the leg stretch is going to strongly stretch out that line of energy and hopefully open it up a little bit. Just take several more deep breaths here. One more deep breath. And then slowly coming back onto your back if you were seated, slowly lowering the legs if you were already on your back. Just take your time to move back into that resting Shavasana shape. Let the breathing settle. And we'll begin to think about stretching out the very front of the body. There's a couple different ways you can do this. If you want to practice it on your back, then you're just going to take a block or a blanket or a pillow, bending the knees, planting the feet, sliding the block up under the hips, and then, or the prop, whatever prop you've decided, and then straightening the legs back out again. This is a really deep stretch for the whole front side of the body. You can add the arms as well, taking them over the head, full front body stretch, or very different looking position, but similar stretch. You can roll over, come up to kneeling and slide a block or two between your legs, sitting on that prop, leaning back into saddle pose. So this is going to be harder on the knees, the kneeling position. If you're going to practice it on your back, you are welcome to also have the knees bent rather than stretched out. So whatever you've chosen, you're just going to settle in. I want to recommend sitting up on things for that kneeling position just because it can really help keep the spine safe. You're going to feel that curving in the low back. This is for the spleen meridian associated with digestion and the flow of nutrients in the body. When unbalanced, it's believed to cause digestion issues, stomach problems, fatigue, brain fog, and excessive worry. And you can kind of feel the energy here of the openness of the body. Notice where the sensation is biggest for you. This meridian runs from the big toe all the way up the front of the legs, zigzags across the torso, comes to the shoulder and then swings to the throat and all the way to the mouth. So you can imagine that line of energy opening and stretching out. In Chinese medicine, energy called qi flows through your pathways called meridians. And when healthy and clear, these pathways might increase longevity and support the proper function of our organs. Just enjoy the intensity as it rises. You're just going to stay with it for just a few more breaths. Let's just take one more full breath in and out. And slowly transitioning, the arms come down. The knees can bend. If you're seated, you're just rolling over onto your back to stretch it out, eventually taking the prop out from under you if you were using that, letting the knees rock a little. The counter pose for that wide open front body stretch is going to be rolling up into a ball. So you'll just eventually draw the knees inward. You can hold on behind or in front of the legs. You can use straps. You can rock a little. Just massaging the back, letting it soften. You're welcome to lift your head and nose toward your knees if that feels good to you, or just leaving the head on the floor, relaxing and rocking. You might take your time just holding onto your knees and settling in, or you might prefer a little movement, a little bicycle pedaling in the air, stretching out, moving through the knee joints, getting into the ankles a little bit with some pointing and flattening of the feet. From here, we're going to move into our gallbladder stretch up the outside edges of the body. So we're going to do a little banana stretch. So when you feel ready, you'll just start to bring your feet down to the floor, start to stretch them out down to the bottom of the mat. The arms can stay down the whole time, or they can reach over the head as well. And you'll just start to walk your feet together over toward one edge of your mat. It doesn't matter which edge you do first. You might cross an ankle, but you want to make sure that the back of the body is fully flat on the floor. A little arch in the low back is good. You can add the upper body, scooting shoulders, arms, head over toward that same long edge as your feet so that you turn into a crescent moon or a big letter C on the floor, a banana. Just begin to breathe up and down from the elbow, across the armpit, across the side ribs, down the whole side edge of the body to the ankle bone. That's the line of the gallbladder meridian. And if any part of the pose is a little too intense for you, you're always welcome to uncross an ankle, open the feet a little, let the shoulders soften, widen the arms. Just the simple act of lying on the floor can help to open this long side body meridian. The gallbladder is associated with bile and energy for movement and action. When unbalanced, it's believed to cause headaches, eye disorders, insomnia, timidness, and indecisiveness. It's fun reading about what the imbalance might look like and thinking about how I don't want to have any of those imbalances, and yet I have a little bit of all of them. Maybe just think about yourself and which one of the imbalances has really come up for you today. And just breathe into that idea for yourself. Just give yourself some space, some curiosity to see what might be awakening in your thoughts as ways not only by stretching the body, but also changing our thoughts, changing our patterns, being able to have choices in our lives. As you are stretching in your banana shape this morning, begin to really breathe into that outer lung. One of your lungs is going to feel a little bit squished, the inner edge lung there. The other one is going to feel really open. Let that lung really expand. See if you can get a little deeper into that side of the body. Taking a few more deep breaths, beginning to soften slowly out of the shape. Coming right back to the middle of the mat, slowly but surely. Scooting around until maybe you're in a wide X position on the floor. You can widen the legs apart, widen the arms apart, and just breathe. If this feels so good, then please just stay right here. Wide, softening on the body. Or you can begin to roll back up into a little ball again, nice and slow, rocking the knees as you go. Feeling the back of the body rocking against the mat. Just a little gratitude for the body this morning, how it feels, the hopes that we bring to this practice, this deep, quiet stretching practice, that we might feel more open, more fluid, more free, not only in our joints, but also in our minds and hearts. When you're ready for the other side of your banana stretch, you'll stretch out down the length of the mat and then scoot the feet together over toward the other edge and add the arms if you like. And settle in, stretching the other side, opening the other lung. See if you'd like to cross an ankle. I usually actually like to cross the ankle that's connected to the inner leg. I like that leg on top because it kind of just keeps the other foot anchored to the floor. But you might choose something different. You might have a different favorite place to go here. Drawing the breath full and deep into the lungs. Feeling the belly respond to the breath as well. Sometimes it feels nice to rock the head a little bit. We're going to take about 5 more breaths on this side. As you're finishing up that 5th breath, you're just going to start to slide yourself back to center. Relaxing, maybe widening arms and legs again. Taking a few breaths in that giant cross X on the floor. And then maybe starting to roll yourself up into a ball again. We just have one more big stretch. And this one is for the stomach again. Right back into the middle of the body. We're going to practice a little cat pulling its tail. So what I like to do is put the feet on the floor, maybe scoot the hips a little to the right, and let the bottom leg, now it's going to be the left leg, stretch out down the mat. Pick up the right knee and roll it over all the way to the floor. Roll onto your shoulder so that you're now on your side with that right knee coming right off the side of the mat. And the foot is usually kind of straight down from the knee joint. And this is a great place to stay. You can just stretch back with the top arm, maybe even put a prop behind you and just do the upper body stretch. Or you can add the bending of the long leg Bending it up, reaching for the toes, and then beginning to roll onto the back. And if you do this one, you might push into those front toes, lifting the knee off the floor as you roll onto your spine into this big twist. Sometimes I like to take the upper arm down to the knee, bring the toes to the knee that's underneath there, so I look almost like a pinwheel on the floor. Just moving into this pose, any piece of it that works for you. As you come into the full expression, you might say, nope, that's a little too much, and start to soften. Maybe using a prop, a blanket, a block, a strap, anything you like. Trying to find a way to relax and soften into the stretch. And you can feel this really intensely right across the stomach again. And of course, all the way down, all those different lines. The stomach meridian runs from the third or fourth toe right up the front of the foot, across the knee, up to the thigh, to the belly button, up the chest, to the shoulder, and then back. And it actually crosses under the chin to the other side of the outer eye. So you've got this crossing across the face, down the other side of the body to those toes. So this is a great pose to get really twisted up and feel the crossing of the lines of energy in the body. Just as a reminder, this stomach meridian is associated with digestion and the mental state. So again, you could come into that question of, what is your mental state now? Has it changed? Has it shifted since the beginning of class or the middle of class? When unbalanced, it's believed to cause digestion issues, stomach pain, excessive worry, and anxiety. And it might feel okay to feel a little bit of worry. Take a deep breath and then let it go and come back into this moment. Look around the room, listen to the sounds. Notice that in this moment, you have everything you need. And we're just going to take one more breath on this side. And we're going to roll nice and slow all the way onto our backs. Bringing the knees up, scooting the hips back to center, readjusting the clothes. And you might rock a few times, feeling what's left over from that deep twisting stretch. And then gently begin to scoot the hips to the left, stretching out the bottom leg. Now that's the right leg. The left knee comes up and we roll it over, and the knee comes to the floor. We stack the shoulders and pause there for a moment, maybe just reaching out with the arm. That's enough of a stretch for you. Or you're bending the bottom leg, reaching for the toes. You can use a strap. You can roll onto the back, letting the knee that's now on top come off the ground. You can slide blocks underneath it. And that's the pose, settling in for this really deep twist. We're just going to breathe right into the middle of the stretch. Maybe just 2 or 3 more breaths. Rolling slowly and gently onto your back, scooting the hips and taking your time to rock or stretch or move in any way you need to as you let that last pose disappear. And then move into your favorite Shavasana. as you know, you're always welcome to practice any breathing technique you like. You might move back into your favorite one or a different one from what you practiced at the beginning of class. I highly recommend the simple practice of lengthening the exhale, just taking that time to finish the breath. If you're interested in following along with a little guided breathing, you might tune in and see if you can visualize the path of the breath with the meridians. Settling, beginning to breathe. Imagine that you can breathe right at the point where your chest meets your arms, the front of the armpits. Breathing there a little higher than the heart, breathing in and out, feeling the rise and fall. Drawing the air in through your skin, feeling the energy pouring into your body at this place where the arms meet the chest. And now we'll begin to trace the lines of the body with the breath. Breathe deeply right into the center of your chest, into your heart. Exhale down the inside of both arms to your fingertips. Inhale up the outside of your arms to your shoulders, up your neck, all the way to the top of your head. And exhale down the back of your head, all the way down your back to both legs, all the way down the legs to the bottom of your heels. Inhale up the outside of your right leg and exhale down the inside of your right leg. Inhale up the outside of your left leg and exhale down the inside of the left leg. Inhale up the fronts of both legs, right up through your belly and your ribs to your heart, right back to that place where we began. And you can continue this flow, slowly tracing the lines of your body as you breathe, or you can let it go and just rest. Taking one more deep breath, filling yourself up and holding on to that breath for a moment or two. And then letting it go, slow and steady. Beginning to wiggle your fingers and your toes. Relaxing, stretching, coming back to life again. Sitting up and just noticing how you feel. How do you feel in your joints? In your mind and in your heart? You can leave the hands in the lap or bring them together, palm to palm, Anjali Mudra, thumbs at the middle of the chest, and take a deep breath. Breathing out, we lean forward maybe just a little and we say Namaste. Thank you so much. So grateful for each of you. Have a beautiful day.